Hello everyone, welcome to Coal Mine Photography, where we talk about photography, videography, and the technology used in both. So you have a DSLR camera, but you're stuck in automatic mode. This limits your creative range drastically. So I'm going to show you one of the ways to start unlocking your camera. Today we're going to be talking about aperture, but first things first, roll that intro. On your camera, you have several tools at your disposal to help you control your exposure. In photography, these tools are part of the exposure triangle. To get a correct exposure, you're going to need all three of these tools. If you want to learn about shutter speed, take a look at my long exposure video up above, and that's going to explain how to use shutter speed to control your exposures. In this tutorial, we're going to be discussing aperture. On your camera, the aperture is the opening on your camera that allows light into this camera sensor. The aperture sizes you're able to use are controlled by the lens that you have on your camera. Each lens you own may have different limits on the different kinds of apertures that you can use. So take some time to get familiar with your lenses and determine what aperture sizes they can all use. When the aperture is a really small number like f1.4, that means that the aperture is going to be open really wide to allow a lot of light in. When the aperture number is really large, like f22, that means that the aperture on the camera is going to be really small and allow a very small amount of light into the camera. These f numbers are called f-stops. Stops of light are another term in photography that you'll hear quite often. Really, the only thing you need to know about stops is that they will either double or halve the amount of light that's available in your exposure. You will often hear lenses being referred to as either fast or slow lenses. Fortunately for us, this doesn't mean that your lenses are going to sprout legs and run off. When a lens is fast, this means that your lens is capable of having a very large aperture to allow a faster shutter speed. The opposite is true for slow lenses. Aperture is probably my favorite method to control how creative my final exposures are. This is because with aperture, you're able to control the depth of field of your image. The depth of field of the image is the area in which the image is in focus. This area can be either very small, allowing for a shallow depth of field, or very large, allowing for a deep depth of field. Take a look at this demonstration. As you can see from my studio, on the demonstration on the left, you will see that I am in focus, but my background is slightly out of focus. On the demonstration on the right, both I and my background are much more in focus. In photography, we manipulate the depth of field to either isolate the subject from their background or have the entire foreground to background in focus. This is all accomplished with aperture. At this point, you might be connecting the dots as to why aperture is one of the most amazing tools to create very creative images. If you are just now switching your camera out of automatic mode, I first suggest switching over to aperture priority mode. On your camera mode dial, this is almost always represented by a capital A. The reason that I suggest aperture priority mode is because it will make adjustments to the shutter speed based on your aperture choice. A quick note, as you know from my previous video, if your shutter speed gets a little too low, you will need a tripod to stabilize your camera. Many professional photographers will still use aperture priority mode if they don't need to do anything special with their shutter speeds. You can leave your camera in aperture priority mode while still learning new things and still creating great images. Start using aperture in your photography today. Try taking multiple images with multiple aperture settings and see which ones create the most interesting compositions. If you come up with any questions as you experiment with aperture, just let me know in the comments below. Before we end this video, take a look at a couple other examples that I captured to display aperture settings. If you learned something new or were inspired by this video, please like and share. If you haven't already subscribed, you can click the subscribe button and the bell button below, and you will be notified when I post new videos. Catch you all in the next video.